to 813-813 to learn how to use the volatility to your advantage. Don't wait. Text the word money to 813-813 now.
By texting in, you consent to receive calls, voice, and text messages using automated technology regarding offers by or on behalf of Vantage Point.
Get a king bed for a queen price at Mattress Firm. Save up to $500 during the best Labor Day sale ever on top-rated brands like Sealy and Sleepy's. Plus, get a free adjustable base when you spend $6.99 or more.
7:08 Team Hochberg Traffic Center time and Jim Talamonte.
The inbound Kennedy has massive delays from Austin Avenue to past Ogden. Crash investigation and cleanup work have 2 left lanes blocked after an incident involving a vehicle hit in the construction zone. The travel time is now nearly an hour and a half from O'Hare to downtown. Express lanes are closed as part of the investigation and cleanup effort. Outbound 29 minutes downtown to O'Hare. Metro trains are stopped on the BNSF line in both directions near Harlem after an incident involving a pedestrian. Inbound Eisenhower is getting heavier. Now 50 minutes from 390 to downtown, 35 from Wolf. Stevenson 31 minutes. Veterans Memorial to DuSable Lakeshore Drive. The Rhine 18 minutes from 95th. I'm Jim Alamonte on AM 560 The Answer.
Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast with our AccuWeather meteorologist, Steve Williams.
Patchy fog this morning. It'll be partly sunny, warm, and humid today. High 88. Partly cloudy tonight, low 73. Clouds and sun. Heavy thunderstorm from late morning on tomorrow. The high tomorrow at 87. Sunny Sunday, high 82. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560. The Answer.
Fog in Waukegan at DuPage Airport. Morris, where visibilities are below a quarter mile. Some places down near zero. Lansing has fog as well this morning with low visibilities. Your next news update is at 7:30. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
From the Matrix Home Solutions studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560 The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan, and in for Amy this morning, former Chicago Tribune editorial page editor Kristen McQuarrie. And we played this excerpt from Biden's interview with Clinton Foundation donor Zero yesterday, but it deserves to be in heavy rotation. It deserves to be played again and again and again, as long as there is no plan, as the Washington Times reported, no plan to extract Americans from Kabul and from Afghanistan. Cannot guarantee safe passage to the airport, but come to the airport if you want to leave. Here's what Joe Biden said about his commitment to make sure no American is left behind.
All troops are supposed to be out by August 31st. Even if Americans and our Afghan allies are still trying to get out, they're going to leave?
We're going to do everything in our power to get all Americans out and our allies out.
Does that mean troops will stay beyond August 31st if necessary?
It depends on where we are and whether we can ramp these numbers up to 5,000 to 7,000 a day coming out. If that's the case, they'll all be out.
Because we've got like 10 to 15,000 Americans in the country right now, right? And are you committed to making sure that the troops
Who knows?
Until every American who wants to be out is out?
Yes.
How about our Afghan allies? We have about 80,000 people.
Well, that's not the
Is
estimate.
that too high?
That's too high.
How
the
many?
estimate we're giving is somewhere between 50 and 65,000 folks total, counting.
So you have a better handle on the number of Afghan allies that we have to pull out of Afghanistan if we want to keep our promise than you do American citizens? I mean, again, John Kirby, Pentagon spokesman yesterday, so this was after that interview Biden gave.
Today, how many American citizens remain in Afghanistan?
I don't know.
It's remarkable. And it's in the left, the Biden apologists will parse Biden's words to extract what they want because what he said is so indefensible. Say, look, well, he said it. He didn't come, he didn't put in the form maybe that you wanted, but he said the troops will be there, and if we can get to the numbers we need, then everybody will be able to go home by the August 31st deadline. That's what he's saying. No. No, it doesn't work that way, because this is not a off-the-record session where you're kicking it around with the military brass and the national security team. This is a statement you're making through that political flack for ABC News to the world, including the Taliban, about what America's commitment is to get Americans out of Afghanistan and our Afghan allies out of Afghanistan. And those statements that he made, what you're hearing from the generals, what you're hearing from the Pentagon, what you're hearing from the National Security Advisor, you think that inspires confidence among Americans and Afghan allies, or confidence among the Taliban and other enemies of America, including those that support the Taliban, like the Chinese communists? For more on all this, we're pleased to be joined by Scott McKay, publisher at the Hayride and contributor to the American Spectator as well. Scott, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
One of the things I'll just pick another piece of this and then you tackle it however you'd like. Don't have any idea. No idea on the number of Americans in Afghanistan. I mean, can't you search American passports with and that have been tagged in Afghanistan and come up with a reasonable number, and not to mention a list of names, so you're working off a list of actual names as you're extracting people?
Well, one would think that in April, when they made the decision to do this pullout the way they did it, that would be a project they would take on, right? Like, that would be basic competence. Okay, we're going to need to get everybody out. So, here's everybody that's in Afghanistan, and here's the priority list of getting them out, and we're going to do all this. Because I frankly, I am not impressed by the idea that, we just got taken by surprise at how fast the Taliban or the Afghan government fell. I don't know if you guys saw the interview that Tucker Carlson did with Lara Logan earlier this week. If you haven't, it's really, really worth watching. It's like a 3.5-minute clip that's out there on the internet. And she makes the point that, look, they have the NSA that picks up like every electronic communication of anybody in the world and analyzes it. It's impossible to think that they didn't have a pretty good handle on what was going to happen when they pulled out. And yet, they had no plan for any of this. And it's suspicious. It's sinister. It doesn't come off as incompetence anymore.
Well, I mean, it's not guesswork either. I mean, the Wall Street Journal reporting yesterday this cable that was sent to Blinken in July that said, it's likely the government in Kabul will fall if by the end of or shortly after our August 31st pullout date. So the intelligence estimates that they're saying, it was all over the place. Well, in the waning days, it wasn't all over the place, and they were within 2 weeks, which is a pretty good intelligence estimate. So it's time to get to business, as you say, planning, and that didn't happen. So that whole thing to me is sort of a misdirected conversation. We know now that you're lying, and now what are we going to do about, is it 5,000? Is it 40,000 Americans in Afghanistan? How are we going to get them out? And what they've said so far is, we're going to ask politely the Taliban to provide safe passage to the airport, and then people who can, figure their way to the airport, we'll get them out in due speed. That's about the level of planning, although we'll have no idea when we're done because we have no idea how many people are there.
Well, and there's no effort being made to move people from the safe houses that they're in, as people are being executed on the street outside. There's no effort to move them to the airport so you can get them out, which is different from what, say, the British are doing.
Right.
They've got 2 para running out and doing patrols, grabbing their people, bringing them back to the airport. And we're not doing it. And the British are actually speaking out about that, and are angry at the lack of coordination that our people are giving theirs when they go out. Because apparently, the military on the ground, the American military on the ground, doesn't like being shown up by the British. And it's like, okay, so how did that breakdown happen. The big question for me, I mean, going back to kind of the beginning of this disaster, is you spent the month of June, Pride Month, flying a rainbow flag from the flagpole of the embassy in Kabul, okay, which almost immediately after that is when the Taliban took the whole country. So what level of demoralization did you offer to the Afghan, regime that was your puppet when you basically hoisted a flag calling for the primacy of homosexuality in one of the most traditional societies on earth? Then you closed Bagram Air Base, within a week or so after Pride Month was over. I mean, what did you think was going to happen? And, again, I mean, obviously, I am not going to argue the case that Joe Biden is competent. He's not. The guy's like incompetent in every definition you want to apply to the word. Okay, but when Trump was trying to pull troops out, Mark Milley basically, violated his job description to stop him. And why was that not done in this case? Is the question. Why didn't the military absolutely throw obstacles in Joe Biden's path when they saw, the risks of what is currently happening now?
Yeah, well, that can. I don't know why either, but that can also, I think, just as rationally be chalked up to simple politics. These institutional men and women that will take whatever position they need to take to try to undermine Trump, and then reverse that position if somebody else takes the same position who's an ally. So, that it doesn't necessarily need to be anything grand in terms of a conspiracy. It's just a guy in a uniform who's really just a political hack.
Well, I think Mark Milley is definitely a political hack, but a lot of this is just kind of hard to square because people who are, have risen to positions such as they hold, like chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff or, Secretary of Defense, are supposed to have a baseline of competence that is clearly absent here. And it makes you wonder, like, have we just completely ignored the Peter Principle altogether in America? I mean, how do you get these guys in these positions of power who really can't run a lemonade stand? I mean, who is this guy, Jake Sullivan, anyway? Like, where does he come from? Like, he was a Rhodes Scholar, but what has he ever had a job in his life?
No, he's,
has he ever run anything before?
Hey, we had the best president in United States history who never had a job just a couple of terms ago, Joe Obama's terms 1 and 2. So you don't need a job or have to run anything to be in these positions. You know that.
I would say it helps. And I mean, we're certainly seeing, something that's at this point, this is an existential issue for America's future as a superpower. If you can't execute something as basic as how to ensure your civilians don't turn into hostages as you pull your troops out without telling any of your allies what you're going to do, people are, I don't know how much confidence anybody's ever going to have that an alliance with America is worth having. I mean, I think that's burnt, and I don't really know, how you can fix it. And if this thing has the potential of turning into, like a Cambodia for our people, or maybe more likely than that, we're going to be paying the Taliban billions and billions of dollars to try to spring our people. Once we get to September 1st, and there's just no way these guys can get to the airport running the gauntlet of, Taliban checkpoints.
Yeah.
Bear in mind, we're talking about Kabul. I mean, we got Americans all over that country.
Right.
Yeah. We're the superpower, and the Taliban is flying our Black Hawk helicopters and armed with all of our munitions. I mean, it's just it's a huge debacle, and I just think we haven't really seen the worst of it. The stories are going to start really unfolding in the next couple of days and weeks as they try to get people out. I mean, our citizens are being beaten. They're being told to go to the airport, and there's at least one interview that's on MSN this morning of a father who, got his family there, waited for 12 hours, no one came to help them, and he was whipped. So we don't even know the worst of it at this point.
Well, and I saw a headline, didn't have a chance to read it this morning. Apparently, we're buying our jet fuel at the airport from the Taliban now. That's not a particularly secure situation. If they're in charge of the fuel that you're putting in the planes to get them out of there, that's bad. Like that, at that point, they're in a position to shut off the entire evacuation anytime they want. And all it takes is somebody in the Taliban's leadership to realize the amount of leverage that they have, regardless of whatever deal they may have cut with us. We have, 5,000 troops, but I don't know how much heavy equipment that we have. They have all the heavy equipment. They have the MRAPs and the Humvees and everything. I don't know how much we've got in terms of vehicles and in terms of, whether it's artillery or anything else. If we have to actually fight a pitched battle, we're a bunch of guys with rifles.
This is the Mouse That Roared, the Peter Sellers movie without the comedy. I mean, that's what this sounds like. We're buying fuel for our jets from the Taliban while our jets fly over Kabul as troops fire shots and use tear gas to disperse crowds to get a safe passage to the airport. But we're in good enough stead. This is it's ridiculous. Speaking of ridiculous, one more topic I wanted to get to with you. This Reuters story. Reuters. FBI finds scant evidence U.S. Capitol attack was coordinated. 90 to 95% of these are one-off cases, said a former senior law enforcement official with knowledge of the investigation. Then you have 5% maybe of these militia groups and that were more closely organized. But there was no grand scheme with Roger Stone and Alex Jones and all of these people to storm the Capitol and take hostages. Oh, so it wasn't an insurrection? It wasn't a coup d'etat that nearly toppled the Republic?
I'm actually surprised that somebody would come out and say that. That seems to indicate to me a lack of confidence within within the FBI that that this current regime is tenable, because that's been the narrative all along, right? I mean, the number one terrorist threat in this country is people who thought the election got fixed, or the parents unhappy that their kindergartners are going to have to wear masks in school. I mean, isn't that the number one terrorist threat? Yeah. Now you're telling me that January 6th is not a big deal. And of course you had this guy at the Capitol yesterday with what looked like I don't even know what it was that he had in his lap, saying that it was ammonium nitrate and he was going to do that. Joe Biden needed to resign. He was going to blow himself up, and everywhere I saw that discussed on the internet, people thought it was a false flag operation. Mm-hmm. It was just, I couldn't stop laughing at the fact that everyone's like, "Oh yeah, that's definitely a false flag."
Well, I can't wait to hear a commentary from Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney, not to mention all of the hysterics from the more usual suspects. That would be, of course, Pelosi and Schumer and the rest of them. Is that Reuters story? Reuters, is that just a right-wing rag now? Is that what we're going with?
Yep, apparently. Apparently. I mean, again, I'm shocked. I mean, somebody went rogue at the FBI that actually poo-pooed all this, because, to have that on a day when somebody shows up in a truck and says he's going to blow himself up in front of the Capitol and take out 2.5 city blocks, and they don't use that opportunity to say, oh, there's a, massive conspiracy of right-wing nuts who are going to take the country down. The fact that the Reuters would have a story basically saying the opposite, that tells me somebody didn't get the memo.
It was multiple sources saying that while more than 570 participants were arrested, the violence was not centrally coordinated by far-right groups or prominent supporters of then-President Donald Trump. This is Reuters quoting inside FBI sources. So.
Well, okay. Well, we'll just take that and then quickly move along. Pretend that nobody read that, nobody said that. We'll just I've already seen a Twitter response. Oh, wait. Merrick Garland's still investigating. There's a lot more to this, so just hold your powder. Oh, okay, I will. I'll hold my powder just like I'm holding my powder for the Durham investigation. No problem there, Twitterverse. Scott McKay, publisher at the Hayride, contributor to the American Spectator. Thanks so much, as always, Scott. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend.
You too. And he joined us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer.
Your show keeps me alive during the week. There's nobody I'd rather listen to between 5 and 9 in the morning than you guys.
On AM 560, The Answer.
Doors or windows sticking? Uneven floors? Call Permaseal. Cracks in your drywall? Cracks in your brickwork? Call Permaseal. Leaning or bowing basement walls? Call Permaseal.
With this ongoing drought, homeowners are experiencing these symptoms of foundation issues. I'm Roy Spencer of Permaseal. Too often we hear of homeowners paying for an expensive consultation